What would you do if being kind to a stranger changed your entire life forever? Before we dive into this amazing story, please hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you never miss stories that touch the heart. Also, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, because we absolutely love hearing from you. Marcus Johnson woke up every morning when the sky was still dark. The alarm clock buzzed at 4:30, and he would roll out his thin mattress on the floor. His apartment was tiny, with peeling paint on the walls and a window that never closed all the way. Cold air sneaked in during winter, and Marcus would wrap himself in his only jacket while getting ready for work. He worked at Rosie's Diner, a small restaurant on the corner of Maple Street. The diner was old, and the tiles on the floor were cracked, but it smelled like coffee and warm pancakes every single morning. Marcus had worked there for 5 years, cleaning tables, serving food, and making people smile even when his own stomach growled from hunger. Marcus did not make much money. After paying for his tiny apartment, he barely had enough left to buy food. Sometimes he ate the leftover toast from the diner, the pieces customers did not finish. He never complained. He believed that if he worked hard and treated people with kindness, good things would come. His grandmother had taught him that before she passed away, and Marcus held on to those words like they were made of gold. Every morning, Marcus arrived at the diner before the sun came up. He wiped down every table until they sparkled. He arranged the salt and pepper shakers in perfect rows. He made sure the window seat, the best spot in the whole diner, was extra clean. That seat had a view of the street where you could watch people walk by, see the birds land on the sidewalk, and feel the morning sun warm your face. One Friday morning, something different happened. An old woman walked into the diner, moving slowly with a wooden cane. Her hair was white like fresh snow, and her hand shook a little as she held the door. She wore a faded purple coat that looked like it had seen many winters. Her shoes were old and worn at the edges. Marcus noticed she looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from carrying heavy sadness for a long time. Marcus rushed over with his biggest smile. "Good morning, ma'am. Welcome to Rosie's Diner. Would you like to sit down?" The old woman looked up at him with pale blue eyes that seemed surprised someone was being so nice. "The window seat," she said softly. "If it's not taken, it's all yours," Marcus said, pulling out the chair for her. "Best seat in the house." He brought her a menu, but she did not look at it. "Just coffee and toast, please. That's all I can manage today." Marcus wrote it down and hurried to the kitchen. When he came back with her order, he noticed she was staring out the window with tears running down her wrinkled cheeks. His heart squeezed with worry. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Marcus asked gently. She wiped her eyes quickly. "I'm fine, young man. Just old memories visiting me today." Marcus did not push. He knew sometimes people needed quiet more than questions. He served her coffee and toast and made sure her cup was always full. When it was time to pay, the old woman opened her small purse and counted her coins slowly. Marcus could see she only had a few dollars, barely enough for the meal. Something inside Marcus made a decision right then. When she was not looking, he paid for her breakfast with his own tip money from the day before. When he brought her the receipt, it said "paid in full." The old woman looked confused. "But I haven't paid yet." "Someone already took care of it," Marcus said with a warm smile. "You just enjoy your morning." Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were different tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea what this means." That Friday became the first of many. The old woman, who later told Marcus her name was Mrs. Patterson, came every Friday morning. She always sat in the window seat. She always ordered coffee and toast. And every single Friday, Marcus paid for her meal without telling her. As weeks turned into months, Marcus and Mrs. Patterson began to talk. She told him about her life, about the husband she had loved and lost, about a son who had died young. She told him about her dreams when she was a girl, about wanting to paint pictures and travel the world. Marcus listened to every word like they were precious treasures. "You remind me of my son," Mrs. Patterson said one morning, her voice shaking with emotion. "He had a kind heart just like yours." Marcus felt his throat get tight. "That's the best thing anyone's ever said to me." The cook at the diner, a big man named Ray, noticed what Marcus was doing. "You keep paying for that lady's meals. You'll never save any money," Ray said, shaking his head. "Some things are more important than money," Marcus replied. Mrs. Patterson became the bright spot in Marcus's hard life. No matter how tired he was, no matter how much his feet hurt from standing all day, seeing her by that window made everything better. They laughed together. They shared quiet moments. They became friends in a way that had nothing to do with age or money or anything else. Just two people who cared about each other. Then one Friday, Mrs. Patterson did not come. Marcus kept looking at the door, waiting to see her purple coat and white hair. He kept the window seat empty, even though other customers wanted it. "That seat's reserved," he told them. The next Friday, she was not there either. Marcus felt worry grow in his chest like a heavy stone. Where was she? Was she okay? Was she sick? He did not even know where she lived. He had never asked, and she had never told him. 3 more Fridays passed. The window seat stayed empty. Marcus still cleaned it every morning. He still imagined her sitting there, looking out at the street with her coffee cup in her shaking hands. Then on a Tuesday morning, something happened that Marcus would never forget. A shiny black car pulled up in front of the diner. 3 people in expensive suits got out. Behind them came 2 police officers. Marcus's heart started pounding. What was happening? Was he in trouble? The door opened, and the group walked straight toward him. "Are you Marcus Johnson?" one of the lawyers asked. Marcus's hands started shaking. "Yes, sir. Did I do something wrong?" The lawyer's face was serious. "We need to talk to you about Mrs. Eleanor Patterson." Marcus felt his world starting to spin. Something was very, very wrong, and he had no idea his life was about to change in ways he could never imagine. Marcus felt like he could not breathe. His mind raced with terrible thoughts. Had something bad happened to Mrs. Patterson? Was he being blamed for something? Why were the police here? "Please, sir," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "Is Mrs. Patterson okay? I've been so worried about her." The lawyer, a tall woman with gray hair pulled back tight, looked at Marcus for a long moment. Her face was hard to read. "Perhaps we should sit down," she said. They moved to a booth in the corner. The other customers in the diner stared. Ray poked his head out from the kitchen, his eyes wide with concern. Marcus sat down, his legs feeling weak. The 2 police officers stood nearby, their hands resting on their belts. Marcus had never been in trouble with the law in his entire life, and his heart hammered against his chest like it wanted to escape. The lawyer opened a leather briefcase and pulled out a folder. "Mr. Johnson, I'm attorney Sarah Mitchell. These are my colleagues, Mr. Chun and Ms. Rodriguez. The officers are here as witnesses, not because you're in any trouble." "Witnesses for what?" Marcus asked, confused. "We're here about the estate of Eleanor Catherine Patterson," Attorney Mitchell said. She paused, watching Marcus's face carefully. "I'm very sorry to inform you that Mrs. Patterson passed away 2 weeks ago." The words hit Marcus like a punch to the stomach. He felt tears spring to his eyes immediately. "No," he whispered. "No, that can't be right. She was just here. She was fine. She had been sick for some time," the lawyer explained gently. Her heart was failing. She knew she did not have much time left. Marcus put his head in his hands. He felt like the world had just become darker and colder. Mrs. Patterson was gone. His friend, the woman who had brightened his Fridays, who had smiled at him and shared her stories, was gone forever. He had not even gotten to say goodbye. "I'm so sorry," Marcus said through his tears. "She was a wonderful person. I wish I could have done more for her." Attorney Mitchell's expression softened slightly. "Mr. Johnson, that's actually why we're here. Before Mrs. Patterson died, she left very specific instructions. She wanted us to find you immediately after her passing." Marcus looked up, wiping his eyes. "Me? Why?" The lawyer pulled out an envelope from her briefcase. It was cream-colored and fancy, with Marcus's name written on it in shaky handwriting. Mrs. Patterson's handwriting. "She wanted you to have this," Attorney Mitchell said, sliding the envelope across the table. With trembling hands, Marcus picked up the envelope. He carefully opened it and pulled out a letter. The The paper smelled faintly like lavender, the same perfume Mrs. Patterson always wore. Marcus began to read, and fresh tears rolled down his cheeks. "My dear Marcus," the letter began, "if you are reading this, then I have gone to be with my husband and my son. Please do not be sad for too long. I lived a good life, and you made my final months beautiful. I want to tell you the truth about who I am. My full name is Eleanor Catherine Patterson. My late husband was William Patterson, who owned Patterson Industries. When he died 10 years ago, he left me more money than I could ever spend. We had everything we wanted except the one thing money cannot buy. Our only son, James, died in a car accident when he was 25 years old. That pain never went away. After losing both my husband and my son, I felt so alone. I gave most of my money to charities, trying to find meaning, but nothing filled the emptiness. I moved to a small apartment in your town because I wanted to live simply, to see if I could find people who cared about others without wanting something in return. Then I met you, Marcus. You thought I was just a poor old woman, and you helped me anyway. You paid for my meals with money you needed for yourself. You talked to me like I mattered. You listened to my stories. You gave me something more valuable than all the money in the world. You gave me friendship. You gave me hope that good people still exist. You reminded me so much of my James. He had your kind heart, your gentle way of caring for others. Spending Friday mornings with you felt like having my son back. Just for a little while, Marcus, I have made arrangements. I want to give you something to thank you for giving me so much. Please accept this gift, not because you need to be rewarded for kindness, but because I want to know that goodness does not go unnoticed in this world. Use what I leave you to keep being the wonderful person you are. Help others the way you helped me. You are proof that angels exist. They just sometimes wear aprons and serve coffee. With all my love and gratitude, Eleanor Patterson. Marcus could barely see the words through his tears. His whole body shook as he cried. Ray came over and put a hand on his shoulder. Even the police officers looked moved. "I don't understand," Marcus said, looking at the lawyers. "What does she mean by arrangements?" Attorney Mitchell pulled out another set of papers. Mrs. Patterson's estate was valued at approximately $42 million. She left specific amounts to various charities and causes. But the majority of her estate, including her primary investment accounts, property holdings, and trusts, she left to you. The diner went completely silent. Even the coffee machine seemed to stop gurgling. "What?" Marcus whispered. He must have heard wrong. That could not be real. "You, Marcus Johnson, are the primary beneficiary of Eleanor Patterson's estate," Mr. said, speaking for the first time. "After taxes and legal fees, you'll inherit approximately $28 million. Marcus felt like he was going to faint. $28 million. That was not real. That could not be real. People like him did not get $28 million. He could not even imagine what $1 million looked like. "There must be a mistake," Marcus said, his voice barely working. "I'm nobody. I'm just a waiter. I can't take her money." "There's no mistake," Attorney Mitchell said firmly. "Mrs. Patterson was very clear. She had us investigate you thoroughly. She knew about your struggles, your character, your generosity. She even had a private investigator document some of your acts of kindness to make sure you were genuine. This was not a quick decision. This was planned carefully." "She was testing me?" Marcus asked, feeling strange about that. "No," Ms. Rodriguez said gently. "She was confirming what she already knew, that you were real, that your kindness came from your heart, not from wanting something." Marcus looked down at the letter again. His tears fell on the paper, making the ink blur slightly. Mrs. Patterson had known. She had known all along that he was paying for her meals. She had known he was struggling, and she had loved him anyway. She had trusted him with everything. "There are conditions," Attorney Mitchell continued. "Mrs. Patterson left instructions that certain funds be set up specifically for charitable purposes. She wants you to be involved in those decisions, but the core mission must remain helping elderly people who are alone and struggling." She left detailed notes about her vision. She pulled out another envelope, this one thicker. Inside were pages and pages of Mrs. Patterson's handwriting, describing her dreams. A place where lonely elderly people could come and eat for free, a fund to help seniors who could not afford medicine, programs to connect young people with older folks who needed companionship. She thought of everything. Marcus said in wonder. She had months to plan while she was sick, Attorney Mitchell explained. She wanted her money to keep doing good after she was gone. And she wanted you to be the one to make it happen, because she trusted you completely. The police officers stepped forward then. We're here to verify this transaction is legitimate and that Mr. Johnson understands what's happening, one of them explained. Mrs. Patterson's family members, some distant cousins, tried to contest the will. They claimed you must have manipulated her or tricked her. That's why we needed to be present, to confirm everything is legal and proper. We reviewed all the evidence, the other officer added. The private investigators' reports, security footage from the diner, testimony from other customers. It's clear you had no idea who she really was. Your kindness was genuine. The will stands. Marcus felt overwhelmed. In one morning, he had learned his friend was dead and that she had left him a fortune. He did not know whether to cry from sadness or shock or gratitude, so he cried from all of it. What do I do now? Marcus asked quietly. Attorney Mitchell smiled, the first real smile she had shown. Now, Marcus, you honor her memory. You take this gift and you change the world one act of kindness at a time, just like she wanted. Marcus looked around the diner. He looked at the window seat where Mrs. Patterson used to sit. He could almost see her there, smiling at her with those pale blue eyes, holding her coffee cup. I'll make her proud, Marcus said, his voice growing stronger. I promise I'll make her proud. And in that moment, Marcus Johnson, the poor waiter who had nothing but kindness to give, realized that his life was about to become something he had never dreamed possible. The next few weeks felt like a dream that Marcus kept expecting to wake up from. The lawyers helped him set up bank accounts, explain investments, and walked him through paperwork that made his head spin. Marcus moved out of his tiny apartment into a small but comfortable house. He bought a rail bed, a warm coat, and groceries that fill an entire refrigerator for the first time in his life. But Marcus did not buy fancy cars or expensive watches. He did not move to a mansion or take trips around the world. Instead, he went back to work at Rosie's Diner the very next Monday after meeting with the lawyers. Marcus, you're a millionaire now, Ray said, flipping pancakes in the kitchen. You don't need to work here anymore. I know, Marcus said, tying his apron around his waist. But this is where I met her. This is where it all started. I can't just walk away. What Marcus did next surprised everyone in the small town. He bought Rosie's Diner from the owner, who was ready to retire anyway. But Marcus did not change much about it. He kept the cracked tiles, the old booze, and the squeaky door. He kept Ray as the cook and gave him a big raise. He hired more staff, so nobody had to work as hard as he once did. But he made one big change. Above the door, he hung a new sign. It read, Hope's Table, in beautiful gold letters. Inside, he hung a painting of Mrs. Patterson sitting in the window seat, holding her coffee cup, with the morning sun making her white hair glow like a halo. Then Marcus did something that made people cry when they heard about it. Every Friday morning, from 8 to 11, any elderly person could come to Hope's Table and eat completely free. Not just coffee and toast. Full meals, pancakes, eggs, bacon, fresh fruit, anything they wanted. No questions asked. No proof needed. If you had gray hair and you were hungry, you ate free. The first Friday, 12 elderly people came. They sat quietly, looking nervous, like they could not believe this was real. Marcus served them himself, smiling and talking to each one, asking about their lives, listening to their stories just like he had listened to Mrs. Patterson. By the second Friday, 25 people came. By the end of the first month, the diner was packed every Friday morning with elderly folks who had been eating alone in their apartments or skipping meals because money was tight. Now, they had a place to go. Now they had someone who cared. But Marcus did not stop there. He used Mrs. Patterson's detailed notes to create the Eleanor Patterson Foundation. The foundation paid for medicine for seniors who could not afford it. It fixed broken heaters in the homes of elderly people during winter. It provided free transportation to doctor appointments. It created a phone line where lonely older people could call just to talk to someone who would listen. Marcus hired people to run the foundation, but he stayed involved in every decision. He read every application for help. He personally visited people who needed support. He remembered what Mrs. Patterson had written in her letter about wanting to help people who were alone and struggling, and he made that his mission. One of the foundation's special programs paired young volunteers with elderly people who had no family. Marcus called it the Friday Friends Program, named after Fridays he had spent with Mrs. Patterson. Young people would visit seniors, help with groceries, play cards, or just sit and talk. The program taught young folks that older people had amazing stories and wisdom to share. It taught them that kindness was not about age or money. It was about seeing people and caring about them. The news reporters heard about what Marcus was doing. They came to Hope's table with cameras and microphones. They wanted to interview the poor waiter who became a millionaire and then gave it all away to help others. "I'm not giving it away," Marcus corrected them gently. "I'm using it the way it was meant to be used. Mrs. Patterson did not give me this money to make me rich. She gave it to me to make others feel loved. That's what real wealth is." The story spread across the country. Other cities started creating programs like Hope's Table. Other young people started looking for ways to help elderly neighbors. Mrs. Patterson's act of kindness to one waiter had created a wave of kindness that touched thousands of lives. Marcus kept the letter Mrs. Patterson had written to him in his pocket every single day. When things got hard, when he felt tired or overwhelmed, he would read her words again. "You are proof that angels exist. They just sometimes wear aprons and serve coffee." One year after Mrs. Patterson's death, Marcus organized a special ceremony at Hope's Table. He invited everyone whose life had been touched by the foundation. The diner could not hold everyone, so people stood outside, filling the street. There were elderly folks who had received help. There were young volunteers from the Friday Friends program. There were families whose grandparents had found friendship and support. Marcus stood in front of Mrs. Patterson's portrait and spoke to the crowd. "A year ago, I was a poor waiter who could barely pay rent. I thought I had nothing to give except a smile and a cup of coffee. But Mrs. Patterson taught me that sometimes that's everything. She taught me that small acts of kindness are not small at all. They're the biggest things in the world." His voice shook with emotion as he continued. "Mrs. Patterson was lonely and sad when I met her. She had lost the people she loved most. But she did not let that sadness make her bitter. She used it to recognize kindness when she saw it, and then she multiplied that kindness 1,000,000 times over." Marcus pulled out a small key from his pocket. "Mrs. Patterson left me this key in her belongings." It opened a safety deposit box that contained one more letter. In it, she wrote that the greatest treasure is not money. It's not houses or cars or fancy things. The greatest treasure is knowing that you mattered to someone, that your life made someone else's life better. Tears rolled down his cheeks. "Mrs. Patterson, wherever you are, I want you to know that you mattered. You changed my life. And through me, you've changed hundreds of other lives. Your kindness will never die because I'll keep it alive. We'll all keep it alive." The crowd erupted in applause. People hugged each other and cried happy tears. The window seat where Mrs. Patterson used to sit remained empty during the ceremony, reserved just for her memory, with a single cup of coffee placed on the table, still steaming. After that day, Hope's Table became more than a diner. It became a symbol. It became proof that one person's kindness could change a world. Schools brought children to visit and learn about Mrs. Patterson's story. Teachers used it to teach lessons about compassion and generosity. Churches talked about how love multiplies when you give it away freely. Marcus never forgot where he came from. He still wore an apron every Friday morning. He still served coffee with a smile. He still wiped down tables and made sure everyone felt welcome. The only difference was that now he owned the place, and he used it to honor the woman who had seen goodness in him when he thought he had nothing to offer. Years passed, and Hope's Table kept growing. More locations opened in other towns. The Eleanor Patterson Foundation expanded to help thousands of elderly people across the country, but the original diner on Maple Street remained special. That window seat stayed reserved every Friday morning for 1 hour, from 8 to 9, with a fresh cup of coffee placed on the table, a quiet tribute to the woman who had changed everything. Marcus would often sit in that booth alone during that hour, looking out the window just like Mrs. Patterson used to do. He would think about her wisdom, her loneliness, her generous heart. He would remember the sound of her laugh and the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled. And he would whisper the same words every time. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for teaching me that the richest person is not the one with the most money, but the one with the most love to give. Mrs. Patterson's legacy lived on, not in buildings or bank accounts, but in every meal served with kindness, every lonely person who found friendship, every young volunteer who learned that caring for others was life's greatest purpose. Marcus had a saying that became famous, printed on signs throughout Hope's Table and all the other locations. It said simply, "Coffee's on me. Kindness is free. Love multiplies. Hope endures." Because in the end, that was the truth Mrs. Patterson had known all along. The simplest act of kindness, given from a pure heart, could change not just one life, but thousands. It could ripple outward like waves on water, touching shores you never even knew existed. Marcus Johnson, the poor waiter who once slept on a mattress on the floor, had become rich beyond measure, not because of the money in his bank account, but because he had learned the secret that Mrs. Patterson wanted to share with the world. Love, given freely, always comes back multiplied. Kindness never dies. And angels really do exist. Sometimes they're elderly women in purple coats. Sometimes they're young waiters with gentle hearts. Sometimes they're you. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear today. Subscribe to our channel so you never miss stories that remind us all what truly matters in life. And don't forget to comment below telling us where you're watching from, because your stories inspire us just as much as Marcus and Mrs. Patterson inspired each other. Together, we can keep spreading kindness, one story, one smile, one cup of coffee at a time.